Hi, tonight I'm going to talk about eating disorders among women and what can be done about it. Did you know that every 62 minutes someone dies from an eating disorder? It's getting ridiculously large. It's been something that's been only a first world problem, but now it's leaking into third world countries. It's becoming a real problem. So lots of people are trying to figure out, what is this and why is this happening and why is it raising in our world right now? So let's look into that and see, why is that happening? Because the World Wide Web is going all over the world, now we have places like India and the islands and in Africa and places where there's never been the World Wide Web and there's never been a problem with social media. Now it's coming there and it's getting there. And so there's a problem that's all over the world. The internet is growing rapidly and it seems to go in tandem with eating disorders. So now we have the World Wide Web spreading, and so is the idea of eating disorders and perfectionistic thinking. So is social media killing us? It seems like it is. In fact, Israel and France both have just recently passed laws, and California is thinking about doing it as well, because they see the connection between eating disorders and social media. As the social media rises and the spread of it, so do eating disorders. And with a statistic like every 62 minutes that they're dying, it's no wonder that they're trying to do something as crazy as passing laws about having what they're having in social media. The irony of social media is that as we're looking on our phones and as we're trying to make connections with people, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have all these things that we're trying to do to connect with one another. But the irony of it is we're not connecting at all. In fact, it's doing the opposite with social media. So everyone's on their phones and everybody's looking at what everybody else is doing, hoping that they can copy that, be just like that person, or that they can look better. And that's their way that they're going to rise and be different, is by what they can do out there in social media. If you look around and you can see how bad it's getting, I think everyone has a phone. I've even seen kids as young as 6 years old on phones. And I know that if you give a child a phone, they're fascinated with it. And if they know how to work it and they can do it at so young that it's becoming a problem even as young as 10 years old. When kids are 12, they have phones and that's all they're doing is on their phones. So it's not just a young adult problem, it's also a child problem and an adult problem. If you look at some of these pictures that I have up here, there's a picture of girls that are on a runway. They're runway models. And none of them look healthy. They all have a very thin look to them. It's what is known today as acceptable. And this is what you have to look like in order to fit in or to be popular or famous or just to be better than the average person. But these kind of images are killing us because we're trying to get this, having this perfectionistic attitude by looking at social media. And it's been shown that perfectionistic attitudes go hand in hand with eating disorders. So social media is killing us in that regard, but doing what France and Israel are doing is not the best way to handle it. It is helpful, but it's not going to take care of it. We need to find something else, some other way that we can help curb the rise of the eating disorders in the world today. Instead of trying to be like our friends and try to look just like them or try to one-up them and try to be an Instagram model or try to be on Facebook more than other people, we need to look inside and decide, is this what we want? Is this the feeling that we need, this anxiety and perfectionistic, and can we keep this up? I mean, is this going to be something that can be maintained? And if you look at the statistics, no, it's not. It's not something that can be maintained. So what can we do about it? So recently I've been listening to some podcasts by Dr. Jordan Peterson, who's a psychologist, and he teaches at a university in Canada. And he's been talking to youth about things that are real and what can change their lives, since he's been noticing that young men are really struggling. So he directs all of his talks mainly to young men, but he also says that it's for everyone, and everyone is listening. He's got quite a following. And he talks about having meaning in life and how this can change our lives. So one thing he talks about is being honest and truthful with ourselves and standing up straight and taking responsibility for our lives and doing things that will give meaning to our lives. What's kind of funny is he says, happiness is not the goal. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is meaning in our lives, and that's what changes the world. Whereas Instagram and Facebook and being a model and all those things are so-called happiness. You think that you're happy because you have exposure. It doesn't bring meaning to your life. And Dr. Peterson has noticed that from his talks that he's really getting the attention of youth. They are searching for things that can give them meaning in their life. And he's got a real following. And I'm not an exception. I like following him. So there are some different programs, not only Dr. Peterson, but there are some different programs that have actually helped with all kinds of addictions. And an eating disorder is becoming one of those, another addiction. It's an emotional, psychological addiction that's happening these days, and it's happening a lot. So the things that Dr. Peterson talks about are also things that are in Alcoholics Anonymous and those kind of programs. And they've been helping because people are realizing that there's more to their lives and they want to connect. And not only do they want to connect with people, which is a natural thing that we want, that we need to do as human beings, we need to connect. So by doing these 12 steps that the AA does, or doing the 12 rules for life that Dr. Jordan Peterson does, there are things in there that help us connect with a higher source. They call it God, or however you think of God, just knowing that there is someone that can give you power, that you're not here alone, and that you can rely on him. So we might not be able to change the world and eating disorders by changing social media, but we can change it by how we react to the world, and we can change the world. So I agree with Dr. Peterson. I believe that change is possible if we change our own lives, if we live truthfully, if we take a look inwards and clean up our lives and stand tall and do good in the world and make a difference by just changing ourselves. So if we want to make a change in the world, if we want to help young women, if we want to help our daughters, if we want to help people who are struggling to try to find meaning in their life, then we can do that by changing ourselves and by being a better person and trying to do good in the world and try to be that change that the world needs. And if you want to make the world a better place, just look at yourself and make the change. Yeah, I'm talking about the man in the mirror.